Hey, Confirmation, good to see you guys. Obviously, things have changed a little bit in society, and I don't need to go into all the details of that because you guys are probably all up on what's happening in life. Last week we had Confirmation and youth group canceled. That is going to be the case for several weeks still. Obviously, we don't know. Same thing with your school, right? You guys don't know exactly if or when you're going to be going back to school. And that is the case with youth group and confirmation and Sunday school as well. So this is obviously a huge curveball on you guys. But what I want to say is that I have created a new website specifically for you guys and for your parents. I think it's a pretty good website. I've thrown it together quite quickly, but I'm putting a lot of effort and time into it in these last couple of days. So use the website to try to keep updated on what we're doing. We are going to go through and do video lessons for confirmation. We're going to do video stuff for youth group. We'll do some stuff for Sunday school as well. But everything you are going to need between now and May to finish out the school year really strong, it's going to be on there. So there's a confirmation tab that's on the youth group page there on the web page. So I'll get all that information to you guys, and you guys will be good to go. This lesson is to make up last week's confirmation class, so that would have been March 15th. Now, March 22nd, you guys were supposed to have been on spring break, so I'm not going to do a lesson for the 22nd. So basically the stuff that I'm doing this week is make up for last week. Then you guys will have a week off, and then we'll get back into a rhythm here, and you guys will be accessing videos and content on the webpage. So for this week, one more detail, sorry, before we get into it. I don't think, so here's your confirmation books. I don't think you guys have your confirmation books at home. I think they're all in the library. And so what I think I'm going to have to do here in the next day or two is I'm going to have to swing by each of your houses and just drop those off in the mailbox, okay? And I'll text you or your parents when I do that, just to let you know that that's going to be coming, so that you guys can keep up with your confirmation books and your confirmation Bibles at home, so that when you're watching the video, it's not just a video, but you also have your materials on you as well. I have not figured out exactly how we are going to finish up passion projects. That is something that I've thought about, but I'm not sure how that's going to happen. So just letting you know that it's on my radar, but I don't have an answer for you right now as far as passion projects go. Other than if you guys want to work ahead and you want a video chat with your partner, you're certainly free to do that. So this week, the lesson is a really good lesson, and I'm going to try to keep the videos hopefully to around 15 minutes, since I'm not going to be asking you guys questions. We're not going to be having a dialogue so much. I'm just going to be teaching. I should be able to teach it a whole lot quicker than in 45 minutes. One thing that you guys can do is you can feel free to leave comments. These are listed out on blog posts on the website, and there's the opportunity for you guys to comment on these videos and on this stuff. And so I think that would be something that would be awesome if somebody asked a question and had a comment, and then other people were able to respond. And they don't have to be big, complicated questions or comments, but just even a sentence is just fine. So let's get into this. This week, our lesson is on God's omnipresence and free will. Now, one is a really big word. The other one is a big concept. They're both big concept. And theologians, which mean people who have thought about God and life, have been arguing and thinking about God's omnipresence and free will for thousands of years. So you guys are not going to get it all figured out or ironed out here today. I mention that just to say that there is a variety of views about what I'm going to mention and what I'm going to teach here today. And I understand you guys aren't going to remember all of these like complicated details, so I'm going to try to keep things fairly straightforward, fairly simple for you today. But if you guys start by thinking about this idea of, well, if God is a good God, and if God is in control of everything, then why are there problems in the world? Why is there sin in my life? Why does other people sin? So the bad things that other people do, why does that affect me so much? Why are there bad consequences for me? So if you start thinking about a lot of the bad things that happen in life, it's pretty easy to start wondering, where is God in all of that, right? If God is all powerful, if God is all loving, this word omnipresence, which means if God is everywhere, right? Presence, and omni would be like everywhere. So if God's presence is everywhere, and if God loves me, why are all these bad things happening? Why have terrible things happen in the history of the world? Right now we're having a global pandemic. We haven't had a global pandemic in 100 years. Why is that happening? Why are people dying from the coronavirus? And there's lots and lots of questions that we could ask. So if you've ever wondered questions like that about life, that's what this lesson this week is all about. So God is everywhere. God is omnipresent. But he does something. So if you think about it from God's perspective, the Bible teaches us that when God created humanity, he did not want to create robots, which he could have done. So he could have created beings who had to do exactly what he wanted them to do. And we have a tendency to do this with things that we create, right? We create things exactly the way that we want them to be. So if we build a house, we build it exactly to specific specifications, right? We want it to act a certain way. We want the kitchen to be so big, the bathroom to be so big. We want it to do a specific thing. God, when he created humanity, did not have that kind of intention for humanity to be a robot, to be pre-programmed to only be able to do what he wanted them to do. He had a plan for us. He had a plan for humanity. He had a reason for creating humanity, but this is right at the key of life, actually. I think this is at the core of what life is all about. God wanted humanity to be able to freely choose to love him or not. So he created these beings with the ability to freely choose him. He also created these beings with the free ability to reject him. So this is where free will, this thing called free will, comes into play. So if you guys open up your Bibles to Genesis chapter 1, which is right at the beginning of the Bible, you start reading about a story in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 about God creating the universe, God creating the earth, and putting humanity into a garden, what we call the Garden of Eden, and that God lived with humanity in the Garden of Eden. But right away, right from the beginning, when you look at what happens in the Garden of Eden, is that God created this thing called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he told the humans that they could eat from any tree that they wanted to in the garden, except for they could not eat from that tree, because if they ate from that tree, they would become like God, the text says. So they would become like God. This is a Hebrew poem, right? Genesis 1 and 2. This is Hebrew poetry. It's telling a story about what God did with humanity. It's basically saying he put them in his own presence, that humanity used to live with God, and God gave them the option. God gave them the choice to remain in his presence, in his love, with him, or to go out on their own and be without God. And that is the free will, that is the choice. Now, I want you guys to think about this for a second. If you guys have ever liked somebody, a boy or a girl that you know, and obviously you don't have to tell your parents about that, but just imagine that you like someone, or you've liked someone. You know what that's like. Most of us do. Would you want them to be forced to like you back? Some people kind of do, but that's not like the right or the normal thing. The normal human thing, we don't want to force somebody to fall in love with us, right? We don't want to force somebody to be in a relationship with us. you are in a relationship with your parents, for example. You've been in relationship with them your whole life. They've known you since you were born. That's true. And so in a sense, it's a forced relationship because that's your family. You just have to be a part of your family right now. You'll always be a part of your family, actually. You can never get rid of them. But as you get older, what you get is you get more opportunities and more options to either accept and to love your parents, to accept and love your siblings, to accept and love your family, or to reject them. And this is the same thing that's happening with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, is they're given this opportunity. Like, God placed them in the garden, he put them in his family, but then as time went on, he gave them options. You don't have to stay here. You can go out on your own. You can choose to go against God if you want to. And it's the same thing then when you think about a boyfriend or a girlfriend in a relationship. You date someone in middle school, and a lot of times that lasts a few days or a few weeks, and then somebody decides to end it. I remember there was a girl in 8th grade that I dated for the weekend. I think it was Friday. I found out that she liked me, and so Friday we started dating, but I didn't see her. And then all weekend I didn't see her. And then Sunday night she called me and she broke up with me. So that was kind of how it went in middle school for me. But you wouldn't want it any other way, right? You would want somebody who you like to like you back. And that makes sense to us, and because that's what love actually is, right? So when we think about God, he created us in love. He created us because he loved us, and he showed us his love. And what he wanted was for us to love him back. And so that is why he gave us free will. It's actually why a lot of people have thought over the years that free will is at the very center. It's at the very core of what it means to be a human, is to have free will. And that's why something like slavery is such a problem, because slavery takes free will out of the equation, and it forces somebody to work without pay, right? That's a terrible thing. So free will is totally important. It's huge. So in your lesson books for this week, there's something that says, is God in control? Is God in control? And we tend to say that he is. As Christians, we tend to say God is in control. When bad things happen in the world, we say, well, God is in control. He will handle things. This is actually asking a great question. Is God in control? Because you have to figure it out. I think part of what the Bible is saying is that God has actually given up control. Or there's this fancy word called relinquished. God has relinquished control. You can look that up in the dictionary or ask your parent. He's chosen to give up control over me and over you. He's chosen to give us free will. We have to choose God. He, in a sense, is not in control of us. Why? Not because he's not able to be in control of us, but because he has chosen to relinquish control over us, and he's given us a gift, the gift of free will. It's a really powerful gift. We have the ability to choose God or not. And so it says, do we have free will is the next question. Do we have free will? Another question that they ask, who's the boss? Who is the boss? It says, we believe that we have free will, but we also believe God is in control. Can both be true, or does one statement invalidate the other? On this page, write down 3 reasons you might believe in one of the statements more than the other. So you have the opportunity to say, why do I think God is in control, or why do I think I have free will? And in a sense, God is in control, and in a sense, God gives us control too, right? So both of those things are true. When we open up to the next page, this is going to be page 30 for you guys. You'll see this diagram. It says life's decisions. Try it on this side. That's a little better. Life's decisions. With a bunch of things spinning out connected to it. And so I want you guys, when you get your books at your house, to read this page, to read all of these paragraphs. There's all kinds of questions that happen. When something bad happens in life, we're faced with this question again. Is God really in control? Does God really love me? And honestly, what happens with a lot of people is they think God loves them, But then something happens. A family member dies. A terrible tragedy happens at school. A pandemic, happens. That's what we're going through right now. And all of a sudden, they had this illusion that God was in control of everything. And yet, if God is in control of everything, why is he allowing a pandemic to happen? Why is he allowing the relationships in my life to be broken? Why is he allowing these bad things to happen to me? And if you haven't experienced a whole lot of that, just hold on, buckle up, because that kind of stuff is going to happen in the next couple of years to you guys as you go through high school and as you go into college. For sure, this stuff is going to start happening more, where you're going to be faced with this question of, is God really in control? Does God really love me? Why would he allow these bad things to happen? And I just want to encourage you guys, because Wesley, he led us when you open it depends how you read the Bible, but there's so much in the Bible that would tend to point to this idea that God really is control. In fact, he loves you so much that he decided to give you the ability to choose how you are going to react. My dad had this thing, I can remember it on the fridge, this little piece of paper, probably about that big, 3 or 4 inches, little square piece of paper. It was a quote, and he had it on the fridge all growing up. I can remember this quote being on the fridge. You guys might have heard it before. I don't remember who it's by, but it basically says that life is 10% what happens to you, and 90% your attitude of how you react to what happens to you. And what that means is that in life, good stuff is going to happen to you and bad stuff is going to happen to you. And that's only 10% of your life. But 90% of your life is actually how you respond to it. It's how you react to it. Have you guys ever heard stories about people who live in really poor situations? Or maybe some of you guys have been to a third world country. You've been to some place where people have no money. I mean, they just have absolutely nothing. And one of the things that you'll find with most of the people that live in these countries that we look down upon and we think that they don't have anything, when you meet them, they have something. It's called joy. It's really humbling. It's a humbling experience to meet somebody who has no money and yet has joy. And then I go around, and for my own life and for a lot of my friends' lives and a lot of people that I know that live in our area, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of nice clothes, they have the nicest technology, but a lot of them don't have the joy of God in their life. They're looking for the joy of God. That's what everybody wants, is joy and peace and happiness. It's hard to get sometimes, but this is what life is. Things happen to us, and the question is, how are we going to respond? What causes somebody to be able to respond in joy to hard situations and another person to respond without joy, to get depressed, or to stop believing in God altogether? What causes those types of things? What I want to encourage you guys with is that you are much more in control of your life than you might think. Some of us have the tendency to believe that we are not in control of our lives. Some of us have the tendency to believe that God has put us in a bad situation, and now we're mad at God about that. I've felt that way. And if you feel that way, that's okay. It's okay to feel that way about God. It's okay to doubt God. It's okay to ask questions about God. But I want to encourage you. One thing that I've learned is that you have the ability to choose God again. You have the ability to choose him and to love him again. You have the ability to go after God with everything, because he's already gone after you with everything. He sent his son to die for you, and he loves you. So I'm just going to stop there. There is a whole lot more in this lesson, and you guys should read it. And what I would encourage you to do is to talk to your parents about this stuff, and to maybe ask a few questions about that as well. And to have a conversation about maybe some of the things that have happened in your family, some of the things that have happened in your life, where you've been confronted with this question of, does God really love me? Is God really there? And does God give me free will, the ability to choose him? So I just want to encourage you guys, once again, this Sunday we'll not have a new video. We will have a Sunday video the following Sunday, which would be, I believe, the 29th. And we are going to be off definitely through Palm Sunday, which is April 5th, and we're trying to get back on track for Easter, but honestly, I think with the way this pandemic is moving, it's probably doubtful. But we'll just keep you in the loop, okay? So you guys have a great day. I hope you enjoy this. Let's stay in touch. Feel free to email me, to text me, to call me if you need anything. All right, God bless, guys. We'll see you.